Paper Doy. Check me out over on Whatnot, $1 Million Peddlers, and we've got a big YouTube star with us right now.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Keith, Vintage Sport Flips. How's it going, everyone?
And what's the name of the YouTube channel?
Yeah, Vintage Sport Flips is my channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what do you do over there on that?
So I probably focus on vintage sports memorabilia, some cards, vintage clothing. And I put out a picking video once a week. We're at flea market picking, and then we have a live on Wednesday nights, and I do some short content too. Mainly it's a picking channel. Yep.
And we were talking a little bit beforehand. You do a lot of different shows?
Yeah, I do the National Sports Collectors Convention once a year, and then I do vintage clothing shows, the paper show. And I used to do the Philly show. It's a sports card show. I haven't done that in many years. Yeah.
I was the National this past year. I'm from Cleveland originally, and I went down there, and I guess it was kind of a parking lot leading to it as far as, so I ended up skipping that and going to a flea market instead.
I love Cleveland for like distance for me, the travel and the show, but yeah, the getting in and out of it this year was a nightmare. Parking, there was like a 20-minute backup just to get into the lot. So I like it for the location, but Chicago is definitely the spot to be, I think, for the National. Yeah.
Now, you've done the Chicago before, you've done Cleveland, Atlantic City?
Atlantic City, Baltimore I did twice.
Okay, right. Yep, over in the harbor, yeah. That's nice as well.
Yeah.
I was over that. I probably walked by you.
Yeah, we probably met there before. Yeah, absolutely.
And your expertise is cards, or is it other sports memorabilia, or is it a little bit of everything?
More non-cards, actually. I'm more into cards now, but for the longest time I wouldn't buy cards, and it's like pre-World War II equipment, memorabilia. Now I diversify. Probably the thing I specialize in most is vintage pennants, the felt pennants. That's what one of the main things I sell.
And I've actually done a couple of things over on our channel. We do a top 10 video over there, and I have top 10 World Series items. And there were some World Series pennants that went for some crazy
the team
back
stuff.
in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Okay, so the raid just came in, so if you want to reintroduce yourself a little bit.
All right.
You don't have to start over, but reintroduce.
Well, I better not. I forget half the questions. I'm Paper Guard for the $1 Million Peddlers, and we have a great guest with us today.
Keith, Vintage Sport Flips. How's it going, everyone?
And we were just having a little bit of a discussion, and it will be up over on the YouTube channel, the $1 Million Peddlers, sometime next week probably as well, so you can watch from the start. We were just talking about the National Sports Card Convention. We were talking about vintage pennants and all that kind of thing. What do you see going on with the market?
Yeah, I think the higher end stuff is always that's always going to be a strong seller. I think some of the obviously the economy affects everything, right?
Right.
But I think the people are buying like a $1,500 pennant or a Babe Ruth signed ball. They're still buying it, right? So it hasn't affected me when I sell too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's primarily what you end up selling is the higher end stuff. You're not selling, and nothing against anybody that collects this or anything, but those 1976 pennants with that weird, not fabric, but that weird feel.
I do sell a lot of that. I do sell a lot of that too, though. Yeah, I do sell a lot of I have 40,000 pennants in my inventory, so I have anything from the teens to through the 90s. I have a ton of all of it. So yeah.
Now, do you just sell live, or do you sell online as well?
I sell eBay, Etsy, do sell on Whatnot, sell elsewhere that I won't mention because you're on Whatnot. But yeah, I do some live streaming and eBay and Etsy primarily.
Okay. Now on Whatnot, do you have a set time that you do things? Or?
Yeah, I do sports cards every Monday night, 10:30 Eastern time on Whatnot. And then I've done a lot of pennant shows there before that I'm going to be scheduling again. There's nothing scheduled right now. Yeah.
Now, how do you ship the pennants?
I have a video on my channel that shows how to do it. Mostly I lightly roll them in a 12 by 6 by 6 box. Piece of bubble wrap, just lightly rolled. Safest way to do it for the majority of them. Higher end stuff I used to ship flat. The post office, like the length regulations now, I don't do that probably ever. Yeah.
Now, if I come across one of those old vintage pennants, I guess it's felt cloth, you would know what it is, but it's all folded up, bent up, because that's just the way it was. Do you iron it, or do you sell it as is, or how should you try to make it look better, or do you just sell it like that?
I definitely have ironed a lot of them. The 50s, 60s stuff, put it inside a towel, just not right on the pennant or on the back side of the pennant at the most. And I've ironed them, some of like the Yankees from the 50s that are wrinkled up. A lot of the older stuff really doesn't get wrinkled. The 30s stuff, it doesn't really, the type of felt they use doesn't really wrinkle up too much. So I've done it. I've even cleaned some. That's harder to clean pennants. But mainly it's ironing's probably the most I would do.
And just, obviously I know this, but let's pretend that I didn't. what from the start, like what are the earliest pennants and what were they made out of? And kind of take us real quick through like the evolution. Because I was talking about the '70s stuff that yellows.
More fiberish kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a good question. I think they probably started in the 1890s, mid 1890s. I think initially they were like silk or satin.
Okay. Now were they, and I don't mean to cut you off,
worries.
but were they primarily at that time more the college stuff? They kind of worked off of that?
Definitely college. I think for like graduating years, you see a lot like 1890s, not a lot, but if you see them, they're going to be the class of 96 or something like that. They definitely became more prevalent in the early 1900s, 1900 to 1910.
Right.
And then beyond that, they kept going. But I would say if you find a pennant, it's very rare to find a 19th century pennant.
Okay.
If they are, they're going to be silk, then they got it more in the wool and felt.
So what is the earliest pendant? Sorry if you don't mind me asking, since you said, like, when did they start making them?
Probably the earliest one I've ever had is 1896. It was a Princeton pennant. Yeah. I don't think they come much earlier than that, to be honest. Yeah.
And then we do see occasionally you see the pennants and they've got, I'm going to call it a team picture on it. I've seen those before.
Photo pennants,
Photo pennants. How are they attached to it and what's?
Yeah, usually they're on the back. It's attached with like a period glue and there's like a little like sleeve that goes on top of the photo to lock it in place. Often you'll get them and that sleeve is sort of loose and the photo's like not even attached to the photo anymore. I've lightly attached some glue to reinforce that.
Right.
But yeah, those are cool. Those are like mostly going to be early 60s, the photo pennants. And they do come in a premium, especially NFL photo pennants are pretty rare compared to baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about were there? Obviously there are team pennants and all that, but player pennants and all that. Are those? I mean, I know there were in the '80s and '90s, but were there back in the day? There
are like Joe DiMaggio. I don't think I've ever seen a Cobb pennant. There are some teams players.
Okay.
Mainly it's gonna be like DiMaggio, Jackie Robinson. Those are premium pennants. Are probably $800 to $1,000.
Oh wow.
But yeah, and then there's some '60s players. You'll find like a Maris or a Mantle or Hartman Killebrew I have. But yeah, you don't see them once you get in the '80s. The caricature pennants are prevalent.
Caricature.
But before that, they're pretty rare player pennants.
I think I've seen before, and they literally didn't. I think they just had the player's name on them, and they looked really cheesy. And they were not like a Ty Cobb.
Like the mini pennants, probably.
Mini pennants.
Yeah, like a BF3, 1936, 37. There are some like there's Babe Ruth, there's Gary.
Right.
Yeah, those are definitely
And what would something like that go for?
Probably a Babe Ruth BF3. Probably say I haven't sold one in a long time, but maybe $300-400 would be my guess. Yeah.
And when you say mini pennant, what size is that versus?
Yeah, I would say 12 inches and under. I would call them mini pennant. The BF3s are only like 3 inches long, so they're pretty small.
Really small.
Yeah.
They're super cute. I was wondering, did they come in gum packages and stuff like the other stuff did?
I think so. I don't know if there's. I think maybe Red Ball gum or something like that. I don't know if there's ever. Yeah, they are cool. They have all schools, colleges. They made them too. Yeah.
And I seem to vaguely remember there being pennants from the 70s, late 60s, 70s that came in, you could send away for them, not Nestle's Quick necessarily, but one of those chocolate things. They were the team names on them. I vaguely remember those.
I do.
As well.
There's some from the 60s or 40s, Hormel, like the hot dog company, the Hormel college pennants too. So there are a lot of like mail-away pennants like that are out there.
And what kind of value would something like that have on them?
Those aren't terribly valuable. I think maybe $10-15 for some of them. Yeah, I guess unless you're it's still in the packaging or something. That'll add
right. If you have the mailer and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And then when you get into the pennants, I'm going to assume Yankees, Brooklyn Dodgers. What would be a team that sells well that would surprise somebody would sell well?
Well, probably won't surprise the Birds sell well. Eagles always sells well, so they sell quick. I'd say like it's really who's performing well. Like a team who didn't perform historically, the Lions, for example, their stuff was always the worst seller in the memorabilia category. But with them on a resurgence, their stuff is doing well. Buffalo Bills always a strong seller. Baseball, you can't go wrong with like Cubs, St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, Cubs. Okay, I forgot
So are
about
you
them.
referring to like nationwide, or do you find that markets are stronger where the team resides?
I'm sure it's localized too, but definitely even nationwide. I think there's Eagles fans worldwide.
Right.
That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about the function teams, like the Houston Oilers and things like that, the Washington Senators? back from
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Good question. I mean, they're a little tougher. I think I mean, Houston Oilers are an exception because a lot of the vintage clothing people love Houston Oilers for some
With the
reason.
colors?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that stuff sells well. I think if that still is collectible because you still have the Texans or the Titans fans who
Yeah.
would probably collect it. But it's not as desirable, I think, as if it's an active team whose stuff is still around.
And probably one final question for you here. And again, we are going to be having him on our channel. We're going to be kind of doing a trade out. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about something like, I'm going to throw a team out there. Well, two questions. St. Louis Browns. Anybody care?
Yeah, Brown stuff
Okay.
actually sells pretty well.
St. Louis
Yeah,
does.
because St. Louis is a good collecting city, I feel like, so I've sold a lot of Brown stuff.
And have you ever come across anything from the Negro Leagues? And did they do much from the Negro Leagues?
Yeah, there are a pretty rare series of pennants from the 40s, like Philadelphia Stars, Homestead Grays.
Yeah.
Those are $300-400 pennants, probably minimally. So those are definitely one to look out for.
And what about pinholes? Do those take down considerably or not really? Because you're going to
Yeah.
find a lot of them with
Yeah,
pinholes.
pinholes or moth holes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends on the collector. Some people really are condition conscious. Others just want an example.
Yeah.
So I describe it that way. You tell them there's some damage, but it doesn't kill the value completely. It's still going to have good value.
I have a chat question, if you
Sure.
guys don't mind. What materials have pennants been made from? We went over this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, the early ones I would say silk, then more into wool felt, and then modern ones are more of like a manufactured like pseudo felt. I don't even
So
call
is
it
it easy for you
polyester.
to tell the older ones from the
Yeah,
newer
absolutely.
ones?
Yeah. Once you get through past the 50s, they've really changed in how they were made.
Now, those ones in the 70s I was talking about, why do those yellow? And they
Yeah.
do. They yellow brown.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
those all the time.
Good
Is it
question.
just
I don't know that.
Because they don't do that anymore, correct? The stuff they're making now doesn't yellow like that, does it?
No, you're right. I think a lot of them were white. I think
Yeah, they were a lot of them
more the
white,
modern,
yeah.
modern ones are more colorful, so they show less color than they would than those whitish
Right.
70s ones. I guess it is like a nylon polyester kind of material, so that's probably why it didn't hold up as well.
Yeah, I was wondering if they didn't change and they weren't aware of what the long-term effects would have been of it.
Yeah.
And then
Probably,
over time
yeah.
they learned and they said, oh, this doesn't work.
Yeah, they changed it up.
We
Yeah.
were wondering when they stopped making the true felt. You might have said.
Yeah, I would say into the 60s. I mean, there's still some like reproduction ones currently that are felt, but I would say the 60s they got to more of a thinner style, pseudo felt in the 60s, but not.
And does anybody make any higher end pennants nowadays? Or, you know, how they always try to make something higher end for the collectible market and all that?
Yeah.
Or is everything still kind of, I mean, a pennant's a pennant like deal?
Yeah, I don't think modern pennants are anything that's more desirable than another. It's all generally either reproduction stuff or like there's a lot of Eagle Super Bowl pennants around now. I don't think there's anything that stands above the rest.
And you can tell a reproduction.
Yeah. Sometimes in photos it's tricky, but in person
Okay.
I can tell. Yeah, I gotta see it in person.
Can you
Okay.
blacklight? Can you do the blacklight test with felt? I never thought about that.
I've never tried it.
You
Probably.
do that with paper a lot.
Yeah, you
because
probably
of-
could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point.
There we go. Well, we'll be talking
Yeah.
about that over on our channel, and when we do the show swap, we'll be asking them, so
Yeah.
did you buy a black light? And he'll be like,
Yeah.
I've just been watching the posters on my wall.
Yeah.
Groovy, man.
There
I
you go.
will
Yeah.
introduce you to Confucius.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I saw.
You've
watched
heard
some-
of corn?
I have heard of
Yay!
corn. Yeah. I listened to some of the ride home last night.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
2 for 2, Tammy. Congrats.
All righty.
Cool,
Thanks
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thanks
and,
for having me.
we'll see you over on our channel.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And you guys, this is Vintage Sports Flip on the app. I'm just tagging it in the chat. Like you follow Monday nights.
You got it. You got it.
So check them out.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.